All right, well, let's get started. I'm Ken Archer. I'm the SVP of Product here at Upwave. And today we're going to talk about uh, uh, when persuadable audiences meet programmatic platforms. And I'm really excited to introduce you today to the co-founders of Chalice. Ali and Adam are going to walk you through an exciting integration that has already benefited a couple major political campaigns. They're going to give you some details on that. Ali is the COO of Chalice. Ali Manning comes with deep expertise in products for brand lift, having led go-to-market for US brand ads business at YouTube. Ali moved to Snap to help launch its brand ads offering across autos, CPG, and other verticals. Chalice CEO, Adam Heimlich, is an agency veteran turned entrepreneur. Adam built Horizon Media's programmatic practice, consulted with brands bringing ad tech in-house to implement advanced capabilities. And then this work sparked the idea for Chalice, a platform built to make tech work for marketers versus marketers working for the tech. So with that, I will turn things over to Ali and Adam. And if you have questions, you can enter them into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we will field them at the end of the presentation.
Great, thanks, Ken. We're really excited to be here with our awesome partner, Upwave. So we at Chalice are a custom algorithms company, and we're going to talk about why algorithms matter and matter a lot for getting to the right audience, especially in connected TV and video campaigns. But first, we just wanted to demystify the word algorithm a bit. It gets thrown around a lot, including in advertising. And its ad delivery algorithms have mostly been held by a few companies, right? So a few companies have used these algorithms to make decisions about what ad gets in front of what consumer at what moment and what price, right? So algorithms are simply those business decision rules about getting an ad in front of a person, at that price. So those, because algorithms have been held by a few big companies, those algorithms have been written according to their business rules. So we're excited to be part of what we call the democratization of AI, because because of latest technology advances in cloud computing and machine learning, we can now make this accessible and put it directly in the hands of brands. So now they can rewrite the rules for what they care about, not proxies like clicks and conversions and view through rates, but actual business outcomes like brand persuasion, which is what we're talking about today and how we partner with Upwave. So this is why it matters. So, algorithms that are used by most of the platforms are optimized to a few marketing metrics, right? For video, that is usually video completion rates or quote unquote engagement. Because the algorithms are trained to those metrics, they actually end up putting ads in front of the wrong audiences, right? Not the audience who needs lift, the audience that could be persuaded, but the audiences who are already persuaded and potentially the audiences who can't be persuaded. You see that in politics a lot. The ads get put in front of people who hate watch the ad of the opponent. So in politics, which we'll talk about, but also for brands, right? They want to get ads in front of that middle section, the people who are winnable. So in this standard current state of the world, it leads to low lift, right? So a lot of budget gets pulled in front of people who you've already won, you're preaching to the choir, and you have small lift in total results. What I would say is that a lot of the standard algorithms have gotten really good at gaming the system, right? And so taking credit for lift that actually isn't a lift on total business results, but looks like good marketing lift. We see that with clients who care about incrementality when they're doing acquisition campaigns as well. Okay, so that's the current state. The new state, what's newly possible, is you can actually deliver ads to the persuadable audience directly. Because when you point an algorithm, you train it on lift, right? So the ability to measure someone's persuadability, you can then predict who's going to be persuadable and either adjust what you're doing within your target audience and or expand out into new audiences who are going to be persuaded. And of course, that delivers better results, right? So you put the ads in front of the people with the most predicted lift, and you get ultimately more sales. So this is what we call a virtuous cycle. So, what we see happen with a lot of brand advertising campaigns now is a linear process where a lot of really smart planning happens ahead of time, audience research, development, et cetera. That great work gets put through a generic ad delivery algorithm, and there's not a lot of feedback that happens while the campaign is running, right? And even if there is feedback, it's hard to action. Then at the end of the campaign, there's usually a big study. You see if all that great planning actually worked, and like who and where it worked potentially. And then you try to use that for the next campaign, which is usually a whole different flavor of things anyway. So what we can do is take that linear process, right, and make it this virtuous cycle where we launch media, either targeted or in the case of politics, they wanted kind of a broader net so that because the margins are so tight on the race, they wanted to get to every voter. So we can launch the media while Upwave is collecting their amazing persuasion data. We start optimizing immediately on the inventory factors that matter for persuasion, right? So that's mostly about the attention that the ads are going to get, because if you don't get someone's attention, you're not going to persuade them, right? So we look for really good, high quality attention opportunities. We then, once we have Uplift's persuasion data, we build that into the algorithm's buying logic, and Upwave is continuously feeding us that data. So at first, it's sort of at a audience level. It gets more and more granular, and then finally we get it at a user level, and that's very powerful. We can start to make predictions on nuanced things, right? So in politics, if you're a white woman in the South with a high household income, your predicted ad effect versus if you are a white woman in the South with a lower household income. So we'll talk about now what actually happened with our political campaigns. So we were very honored to work with the Biden-Harris presidential campaign, and then out of the success with that, Jon Ossoff's runoff campaign for the Senate. And so, as you can imagine, the problems that we just described were facing these campaigns. They had really great get out the vote messages. They just needed to get them in front of people who don't want to watch political ads, but if they do, will change their mind and be persuaded by them. So what was really exciting was there was a lot of audience discovery that came out the gate. So the ad, particularly for Biden, the ad was in hip hop kind of themed. It seemed very well targeted for more of a young urban audience. But once we get back at Upwave's persuasion data, it was very clear that the audience with the most lift from seeing this ad was white suburban women in the South. That later became the story, post-election of who tipped the results for Biden, especially in Georgia, where we were. And if we had waited, right, for the end of the campaign, that insight wouldn't have mattered. But when we got that insight, this chart on the right shows the ad was already doing really good results for Biden, right? 40% exposed versus control, just when we got the first survey results. But by optimizing to the audience, right? So with this insight that the lift is higher for this group, we put that into the buying decision, and within 3 days got 5 more points of lift. I also just want to clarify that because this is an algorithm, it's not a blunt object. So it's not that we only served ads to suburban women, white women in the South, right? It's that we bid more for them because they were more persuadable, and we still bid for other persuadable audiences, but we adjusted the bids according to persuasion. And if they weren't persuadable, we would obviously pass. So it gets really really refined and a really smart use of your ad budget to drive lift. The other note we should make here is that Upwave's persuasion data gives us insight into the supply side as well. So the supply side and exposure factors. What was really powerful for, again, the Biden campaign was initially we thought the optimal frequency was a frequency of 4 based on who was completing the video on quality websites. But what we actually saw when we got the Upwave persuasion data back is that it only took 2 ads. If we're going to persuade someone, 2 ads and we're done. So simply by taking the frequency of 4 to 2, we're able to double our reach. What is really exciting about what Chalice does with frequency in particular is we can actually see a person's current frequency and make a decision about whether to show them the next ad and at what price. So for example, I can see that Ken has had 3 ad exposures and make a decision about whether to serve him a 4th and at what price and how valuable that is versus showing Adam his first ad exposure. Okay, so that's our political story, but we wanted to connect it back to the work we do for brands. And I'm going to hand it over to Adam to talk about some exciting brand work we're doing with a financial services client, particularly in connected TV.
All right, so we're working with one of the big banks, and they're in the process of moving their CTT and OTT buy from direct to programmatic. So it's a really high stakes moment where there's some additional costs in programmatic and the rates are uncertain, and they very much want to prove that this is worthwhile and they could drive more lift because of the data availability in real-time bidding. So they're working with Chalice and Upwave to spike lift as much as possible and to surface insights about where that lift is. Particularly the parameters that they're focused on are the deals that they made and the DMAs that they're active in. Right, and it's actually compared to a set of controlled DMAs to help prove it out. So here's an initial look at results, right? We haven't gotten to the stage that Ali showed you with Biden, but what we want to be clear is that there really is significant variation in the data across their deals, Freewheel and Magnite being the 2 big exchanges in CTV, and also in various DMAs, and in what the bank really cares about, reach to affluence. So all these come through. We weren't super clear in the beginning about how fast data comes back, but you can think of it as bands of millions of impressions. And this is the kind of result you get after 2 million. And then you start to get into all the crosstabs and combinations of model features around 10, 15 million. So for significant advertisers, that's very fast. It's a matter of weeks or months until you get extremely valuable insights that can feed your next CTV deal, your DMA approach, and even your data strategy as you start to figure out who of the data companies is really helping your reach to affluence as confirmed in surveys. You gonna wrap it up, Ali?
Sure. So the things I think we would want you to take away from this is that it is possible to optimize a brand campaign to a real brand outcome while the campaign is going on. And we believe that is best suited for a custom algorithm fueled by persuasion data, like what Upwave provides, because it can make really powerful decisioning about that right ad, right place, right time, right price. Yeah, and I would add, what's really magic right now is that there's this moment in connected TV and video where it is becoming more and more biddable. There's more intelligence in the work going on into planning. And this work can really make that strategic, can make it strategic, full stop. Anything to add? Not, let's do Q&A.
All right. Thank you so much, Ali and Adam. So we've got a couple questions that have come in. So one is, if we want to do a campaign like this, what is the lead time and what's the right amount of time to test it?
So these political campaigns were launched very quickly, and that's something we can do, right? There has to be enough time to produce a media plan, get the media tagged, and for Upwave to create the survey. But there isn't a very large integration beside that. It's pretty much ready to go. So a week is enough lead time. And it's, as I said, it requires millions of impressions. So it's not a time constraint so much as a millions of impressions. We recommend the first test have 15 million impressions. And it's best if that's over a set of weeks or months, but it could last several months if that's preferred.
Another question, does this work with any DSP? What kind of DSP integrations do you do?
The work we showed today were beeswax integrations with Upwave, and this capability is also available in the trade desk. I should mention that the Chalice has 3 co-founders. You met me and Ali today, but Ken Rona is the third founder. He's a PhD data scientist. He builds the algorithms, and I welcome any questions on the data science end for Ken, who's on the line.
I would also note, so those are the 2 DSPs we work with, and through either of them, you will reach, most of whatever is biddable in connected TV and video. So if you're doing a lot of direct buys, but interested in trying out biddable in connected TV or video, this would be a great place to start.
All right. Another question, if we have a brand lift study already running, can we use the same questions as that lift study? I think the question here is, if you've got a study already running, can you just start doing this?
Yes. So Upwave is our partner for the signal for the algorithm, but if you want to measure performance with another study,
right,
it's fine with us, and same questions make sense.
Right. So you don't have to, so you can decide to do this mid-campaign, basically, as long as you have the brand lift study going.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, that is all of our questions today. So everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this webinar. We'll have another expert update webinar in a couple weeks that you'll be notified about. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for hosting.